Hey everybody, it's Mark. I'm out here with John and Jeanette. We have some special guests today, so we are on the road. We are out here in Hampton. John, where are we at, buddy?
All right, so we're with JRN, right? JRN Racing with Doug Sample and his crew, some of which are your sons.
Yep.
So go ahead and introduce them.
All right, so first is my son, Nick Sample. He races the number 25 Grand Stock at Langley Speedway. Then we have Jason Michaud. He races the number 46 Pro 6 at Langley Speedway. Next to him is Donald Brown, serving in the Navy. He drives the 05 Super Truck at Langley Speedway. And on the end is Jamie Sample, my oldest son, and he drives the number 28 Modified at Langley Speedway.
So, and I do want to make sure that we say that Coastal Virginia Auto Show is sponsored.
Yes,
Yep.
we are.
For 2020, Coastal Virginia Auto Show came on board, helped us out greatly with sponsorship, which we certainly appreciate. And we took pride in having them on the side of our cars here in 2026.
I think we're going to see it again in 2021. I think we've got a great relationship with you, and I don't see any reason why that'll change.
We certainly appreciate that.
Yes, VPI Services is one of our sponsors. He does inspections, like when you get ready to buy a car. You can take it to him, he'll check it out, make sure you got what you are expecting. So we appreciate you, Eric, and all your support. Also, Rooster Concepts. They do laser engraving, and they're a big sponsor as well. So thank you guys, appreciate your help. Now we're going to talk about racing.
We have our late guy.
We have our late guy.
Oh, yes, from the back. What do we have here? Come on
It's
out.
Mark Edwards. He drives the number 2 Champ Kart that races with the Hampton Roads Kart Club and on Saturday nights here at Langley Speedway.
You know, and
Outstanding.
where I come from, when you're late, you owe a case of beer.
Case of beer, huh?
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we are out here. We're going to be able to take a look around the garage, take a look at some of these local cars here. So again, we're right here in Hampton, and you guys race at Langley. You tow these cars anywhere else? Is it mainly Langley's home base for you?
So Langley's home base. Fortunately, with our location, Langley's about 15 minutes from our house and from our shop here. That's our home track. It's been our home track for 25 years. We have towed the modifieds down to Southern National Motorsports Park in Henley, North Carolina. They do an end-of-the-year race at Thanksgiving time. Unfortunately, with COVID this year, that did not occur.
Yeah.
But that's close. So we'd like to travel to some other tracks, but not as a regular thing, just as a special thing.
Yeah. That sounds great. All right, so you guys stay tuned. We're gonna bring you inside and show you some of the cars and learn a little bit more about the guys there. All right. See you in a bit. All right, so we made it to the inside of the shop. We're out here one-on-one with Doug right now. One of the things that we talked about is just the fact that we're on the road. We're looking to find out the story behind the story. So we're out here with Doug. Actually, Doug, take us way back to when did you start this racing thing?
Okay, so it really started with a conversation between a friend of mine, John Simpson, and myself. Both of us are members of Mustang Club at Tidewater, and I've been a member since 1988.
Right.
And so in the mid-90s, our sons were getting to the point that they were 8, 9, 10 years old. We started talking about getting our sons into racing because he had stock car experience, I had some drag racing experience. We decided it'd be a great family activity. So we went and bought a racing go-kart. We had, locally here, there's Hampton Roads Kart Club, and they race on a track at Langley Speedway as well. And so we got hooked up with them, and through the Hampton Roads Kart Club, we went to one of their swap meets, found a go-kart that was suitable, and my 2 oldest sons at the time were 8 and 6, decided it would be good. We could start out with one go-kart, let them both share it, figure out whether they like this or not, figure out whether this is for them or not. We had one go-kart, I had tools, and we had a Chrysler minivan that we would take the seats out of, and we would put the go-kart in the back of the minivan, which fortunately would fit. One of the boys would ride to the track in the seat of the go-kart, and the other one would ride in the front seat. And so that's how we started racing. We had a green, one of these tote boxes that you bought at Sears at the time that had all of our spare parts and stuff in, and we actually still have that green box, and it's in our race trailer at home right now, and it doesn't have anything in there. We never use it, but it's still in that box.
Oh yeah, that's where everything started from.
That's where everything started from.
One day we're going to fill it up with money and hand it off to the next generation, right?
So the first season, so this was in late 1996.
Right.
So we started racing the first season in 97, and it worked out pretty well. Again, my 2 sons would alternate back and forth racing the go-kart.
Right.
my middle son Randy, during one of his races, actually flipped the cart and came out of it. So that pretty much spooked him from racing. So for the most part, for the next year, it was just Jamie racing. At the time, the Hampton Roads Kart Club was racing what we called mini cups, and so basically it was a half-size stock car. Used a Honda, like a generator motor in the back, and they were pretty fast, and they would race on a big track in Langley. So Randy wanted to get one of them, so we ended up buying one of them. And so over the course of the years, our go-karts now have transitioned into these mini cup cars. Both Jamie and Randy raced the mini cups. My youngest son Nick has always been at the track and has been there with us through, of course, the whole time since he was 2 years old. And so when he got to be of age, which was about 7, then he picked up the go-kart that Jamie and Randy raced and started racing that. So at one time there on a Sunday afternoon, we had all three boys racing. So with the mini cups, we were able to travel a little bit. There's a group based out of Salem, Virginia, the Virginia Mini Cup Racing Association, and they race at like various tracks in the western part of the state. And so we traveled and did a couple of races with them. Raced at Southampton Motor Speedway, but it was still open with them. Jamie got T-boned during one of those races, and actually the car was faster after he got T-boned. So sometimes it works out. But anyway, so late 2005, we decided it was time to venture off into big cars. And so we bought ourselves one new car. Again, it was the same kind of deal. We had one car, 2 drivers, and they had to alternate and not wreck the car. Right. So we did that for that 2005 season. And then 2006, we bought a second new car. And so between Jamie and Randy both, we raced again in 2007. They both had 3 wins that season. And then in 2008, we started racing Super Streets. So Super Streets are now a full-size car. It's a G-body Monte Carlo, 350 V8, Chevrolet V8, automatic transmissions. Step up now to a full-size race car. So we raced Super Streets, and we had good success in the Super Streets. Raced them until 2012. In 2012, then, we decided to take Jamie's Super Street car and now convert it to the division known as the Grand Stock. So Grand Stock, which we've got one out here, which you'll see here in a bit, is also a G-body GM car. The Monte Carlo is the most popular car, obviously. But it could be a Buick Regal, Pontiac Grand Prix, Oldsmobile Cutlass. Any of those all have the same chassis, the same undercarriage. So we just decided to turn that into a Grand Stock. So the Grand Stock is a step up from the Super Street in that now you can do more motor modifications, now you can do more chassis modifications. The cars are about a second faster, bigger tires, and Jamie raced in the Grand Stock division for 4 years, had good success in the Grand Stock division. And then at the end of 2015, we decided it was time to go modified racing. That was the next logical step up for us. In 2016, Langley did not open. We had bought this modified here, which I'm sure we'll talk to here in a minute. So in 2016, because of the track not opening, we did not run it.
And back there, that was about the land and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
Who didn't own it.
it was the current owners were looking to sell the property, or the owners at the time were looking to sell the property. Bill Mullis, a great guy, a longtime friend, was working to get it, and in 2017 was able to get it and open the track back up. So 2017 was our first season racing modifieds. Nick, in the meantime, had moved on to, he had quit racing, had success in both his mini cup, because we moved him up to a mini cup back in 2007. He also raced what's called a junior champ, which is a smaller version of that champ cart there, which I'm sure we'll talk to here in a minute. But then his interest was in ice hockey. So he took a hiatus from racing, went to go play ice hockey. We traveled around in the wintertime, which was kind of a good alternate because racing wasn't happening in the winter. So now on the weekends we were going to play ice hockey. And then here a couple of years ago, he got the racing bug again and has been racing again with us. So since 2017, we've been racing modifieds. 2019, Nick started racing again full time in the Super Street, and then had one win last year, and then Grand Stock this year, which to me, I really enjoy the Grand Stock division. I think it's a great division. Not a whole lot of cars this season, but I know there's more coming back. But to me, that's the most competitive division out there at Langley currently. And a lot of cars that are basically equal, that anyone could win at any time.
Right.
And so Nick had a good success this year with 4 wins.
Have you ever been in the seat of these cars?
So I've been in the U car one time,
Uh-huh.
and that was back after we first bought it.
Okay.
But again, my time was drag racing.
Gotcha.
And so my friend Greg Rory, who helped the Edwards at the racetrack, him and I grew up together. And we spent some time with a friend that lived over in Newport News, and spent a lot of time at Suffolk Raceway drag racing.
Okay.
So me personally, I've always enjoyed circle track racing, but I have not done it.
Gotcha.
Now, is there, not knowing anything about this, is there money and wins and whatnot enough to help with, sustaining this hobby that you've got? Or
Yes, so if you have good finishes, there is purse money in the divisions that we race in. And that purse money will help defray the cost to get in. It doesn't cover all the costs though, so you really got to have good sponsors, and you really have to have folks that are willing to help you along the way. The winnings help some, but essentially the winnings will cover the weekly expenses.
Right. If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
For the most part.
You just have to have good finishes for that, because there's tons of money poured into these things, and again, once that you rub it up against the wall once or twice, it's made a mess of things, right?
Right. Right.
well, you were talking, you said, and we were talking earlier about sponsors.
Yes.
Sponsors are extremely important. We all know this from everything that we do and all that. So talk a little bit about your philosophy on sponsorship and building that relationship and then going after the sponsorship. And you've been successful in maintaining a lot of these sponsors throughout the years, which is, I would expect, is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, it starts out with building a relationship with the potential sponsor, and you don't go after somebody just for a sponsorship.
Right.
I mean, you build a relationship because you want to be friends, you have common interests, things like that. And so, of course, over time, as you get to know these people on a personal level, you get to find out their hobbies, their interests, and things like that. And so then, if they're in a business that could benefit from having their business advertised or their brand advertised on the side of a race car, then we start talking about racing. And what I've been able to find is that for the most part, folks are really interested in racing and really looking at it as a positive way to get their message out.
Yeah.
And my philosophy is I want to have a good looking car. If we damage it, I want to make sure it looks good for the next race, because we're not just trying to sell ourselves, we're selling our sponsor as well too.
Yeah.
And so I'm also of the opinion that when you go looking for sponsors, let the sponsor decide what they can deal with and what they can help with.
Right.
And help them by explaining here's what the expenses are, and then let that sponsor do whatever they can that fits their budget and fits what they're looking for out of it as well too. Not just come up with say, here's how much I need.
Yeah, this is your buy-in.
This is your buy-in if you want to play.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but you go to them and say, this is what we have to offer.
Right.
This is what it costs us to run. And so my philosophy is support whatever anybody wants to support us with.
The one thing about sponsors I always say is that people love to see their names, people love to hear their names. Don't they, Doug? They love to hear their names. Don't they? John, what do you think about that?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, being able to be flashy with a big logo on the side of a race car is really cool. It's really cool. To be up on a banner somewhere is really cool. So, definitely to have these moving pieces of art with your name and your logos buzzing around the track is really cool.
So let's take your hat and turn it around
Right?
to your other hobby that you're in. You've been president and/or vice president, or at least on the board with the Peninsula Car Club Council.
Yes.
And you've also served on the board, president and vice president, I believe, with the Mustang prototype.
Yes.
Two separate worlds.
This is all about.
I'm a Mustang guy.
Right.
Even though our race cars are a bunch of Chevrolets, I get a bunch of crap from all my friends all the time.
Another confused soul.
Yeah. So I have always been a Mustang person. And back when Hot Wheels cars came out in 1968 or whenever it was, my first Hot Wheels car was a Mustang. So I've always enjoyed them. My first car, which I still own, is a '66 Mustang convertible.
Okay.
And so I have it. I have it. I have all the parts for it, and they're scattered in a couple of places in Hampton.
That's for another episode.
We hear those stories all the time. Yeah.
So that was my end of high school car, and that was my back and forth to college car with ODU, and it put a lot of miles going back and forth to the Head Bridgestone. So because I was into Mustangs, I got hooked up with Mustang Club at Taiwan. And how I met those guys was I saw an advertisement that they were having a car show at Newmarket North Mall over here in Hampton in the spring of 1988. And so, because I've been messing with Mustangs for 10 years, I had a whole bunch of parts. I said, well, hey, I want to go load up again the minivan, because we had a minivan. We'll go load up the minivan and try to sell some parts. So met those guys, great bunch, and I've been involved with that club ever since then. In fact, the minivan that I had the parts into, that adequately got named the family truckster, because when we would go off on Mustang Club events, you know, we had everybody piled in the van, and of course that movie had come out, Family Truckster. So in fact, we had a license plate that said that. So, but I've been involved with Mustang Club since then. I've been the president for a bunch of those years. It's a great group of guys. We meet at Cavalier Ford over on Military Highway. I'm not, right now I'm currently not an officer per se, but I am the representative for the club, for the Virginia Peninsula Car Club Council. And I am the vice president of that group. And that is a council that has representatives from the area clubs on the peninsula and over in Gloucester, Matthews area, Northern Neck area, up past Williamsburg, that these representatives get together, share ideas, share topics, so that we can all go take that information back to our member clubs, and of course spread the wealth of the knowledge. And then once a year we host a big car show in October, usually about the week before Halloween, Virginia Fall Classic at New City Park.
And then you guys have tallied up how much money over the years for your charity there?
Yeah, so our charity for that event is CHKD, Children's Hospital King's Daughters, and we are at the close to $500,000 mark donations.
We appreciate that. All right, so again, with this hideous year of 2020, you went virtual.
Yes.
You guys were pretty successful with that too, yeah?
Yeah, we sure did. We had about 100 participants, so we did the same type of thing. Everybody posted their cars, pictures, a variety of pictures to a common website, and those participants went in and voted for their cars as well. So we did the best we could, just like everybody else did with this.
We were right along with you because the Coastal Virginia Auto Show went virtual this year as well. We were planning on doing nothing, and then Jeanette said we got to do something, so we had this idea to host our own virtual show, and it turned out really well. Jeanette was able to pull together some money for our winners. I was able to put together some huge trophies, and we had a best in show that we selected, and then we also had a people's choice. So we did the virtual, and then the people's choice is just a popularity contest. So some people were upset about that, but that's exactly what we intended. We wanted it to be traffic, and then we had photo comments and comment comments. We had 946 comments that were underneath the entry. So post your picture, post more of your pictures, tell a story. The guy who won best in show was Chris Austin, which you know him. But anyways, Chris told a great story. He had great pictures. We went to see him recently, so he has a really good story to back up his story. And then also, he has the real car that exists, so what's the issue? So he has his picture, and that's what other people say. I can just put any car I want up there. Sure, you can if you want, whatever. It's all in the spirit of the game.
All right, so we managed to get the boys from wherever they were, but we got them in here with the chocolates. So who do we want to start with? Jamie?
I run a 28 Model 5, which is the car behind us.
Is that the one right here? Okay.
I've run this car since 2017, and I've been racing since '96 in various different cars we can talk about. So this car is probably more of a full race car than anything we've got. It's got a stock production front flip, basically just the snout forward, which is this particular car is all Impala, I think, or Chevelle type of late 70s, early 80s Chevelle front end. But the rest of it's full race car, full fabricated roll cages. We don't really have a motor rule in this class. Basically, you can run whatever motor you want, with the exception of a few things. Have to run a 2-barrel carburetor, have to run cast iron block, cast iron heads, and that's pretty much it. After that, you can do whatever you want. The real limiting factor is your tires. So if you go put a 900 horsepower motor in the car, but it's not going to do you any good because you're going to burn tires off.
Sure.
So
Now, is this, you're saying it's built on a Chevelle frame?
Just the front part.
Just the front part. So is the car, do you put the rest of the car together, or does it come, you buy it like this?
Well, you can do both.
Okay.
This particular car was actually built in the mid-90s in Iowa, I think it was. A place called Harris. And originally it was a dirt car, we believe.
Okay.
We picked it up in 2015.
Yep.
In 2015, we didn't race until 2017. It's had various modifications done. It's been crashed. We've had things fixed on it. But
I'm assuming you guys do all those fixes?
no, so there's a couple of chassis builders in the area. For this car, we've been using a gentleman named Bobby Creech, kind of up in the Richmond area. He's done some of the modifications and all the fixing on it. And whenever there's chassis type issues, so there's several chassis builders in the area that will do this kind of work.
And then how about I see a fiberglass nose and then aluminum as far as the body and all that. When you scratch and scrape and run into, is that stuff you guys fix?
Yeah, so we actually, he mostly built the body on the car.
Okay.
The nose itself is a purchased part. Right? The rest of it is all fabricated in our shop, and all designed. So really the only rules in these cars for the body is you got to have open fenders. You can get around the fenders. So the open wheel like this. And then you got a box that you kind of have to fit the car in the body.
Now, how about safety? I'm sure that safety is a big thing.
Sure.
You probably go through safety inspections when you get to the track.
So every year they do a safety inspection of the car, and you actually see almost the cars will have a sticker on it that says Langley Speedway 2020 safety inspection, and they'll do a full look at the car, make sure you've got your fuel cell grounded, your proper belts, the proper roll bars, and all that kind of such. These cars are you'll see it as you go around the car. The driver compartment has a steel plate in front of it's for an intrusion plate. Make sure that you don't get things inside the car. Everybody's got to wear a head neck restraint. It's not optional. You got to have up-to-date seatbelts. Seatbelts are only good for 3 years. So you can replace them every 3 years. Some cars have full containment seats. Nick's Grand Stock will have a full containment seat in it. Modifieds don't quite have enough room in them, at least for a guy my size, that have to get a full containment seat in it. But fire suppression systems in the cars.
Have you two ever race against each other?
We've never had. Nope.
So I'm still going to lean into this question. Is there competitive spirit between the two of you?
Who's the better driver?
Who's the better driver? Oh, you sucked this time around.
He didn't delay.
If I was
No,
in
no.
that race, I would whoop your butt.
Nick's better.
No, I think we just have. He's 8 years older than me, so we've never been able to really be in the same class up until probably this past year coming up, since I got back into racing. But I think we just have two pretty different driving styles. I think maybe out the gate I might have the most speed, but I think over a long run he's probably he could probably put together a complete race. I mean he's raced a couple 100-lap races, and I've at most ran a 40-lap race. So there's a lot of things you learn, I think, just from running a race at that length. That I don't have
for experience. Huh?
Well, he naturally picks it up faster. I mean, right out the gate, we did the Grand Stock. He was just as fast as the guys have been running for 15 years.
Okay.
And he actually got this car here about a month ago and was running within half a second of my times in the car, and the first time he was in the car. So he'll pick it up quickly. I've got the experience. But naturally I think he's a better driver.
So same but different.
Same but different. All right, so I'd say we need to move on and pick on Nick now.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so we're outdoors with Nick. We're next to his car.
All right, so this year I ran in the Pepsi Grand Stock class. This is about mid-80s Monte Carlo with a sort of updated body to it. We run a V8 motor, about an 8-inch tire. Right now, sitting at the end of the season, we finished up second in points this year. I finished up with 4 wins, so we were pretty happy with our efforts this year. Had a lot of great effort from my team here, my dad, my crew chief, and then my brother, my crew chief as well. They sort of did half and half deal on that this year.
The car is essentially a G-body Monte Carlo underneath, and it's got a late model body on there. And a lot of the doors in the quarters are all fabricated. We did that here in that shop. But this is a good car. It's been at Langley for many years, and we picked it up here a few years ago and out of the gate with it. We had great success.
So you were saying these are the checkered flag? Four races?
Yeah, we picked up 4 wins this year, so pretty happy with that. I think we had a 10 race season. Was that what we had this year with the kind of the unfortunate year that we had? You know? But very happy with our efforts. We were a couple of points away from getting a championship. There was an issue that I had a couple of races in to where it kind of pushed me a little bit further back out of the reach. But Paul, the gentleman that won the championship this past year, Paul Lubno, he is a great competitor, and I wouldn't honestly want to lose to anybody other than him, really. So it's, you know, it was great to get out there on the track this year.
So you have a picture of your
yeah. This is my grandpa here. He's been passed a few years now, so he rides along with me though. But he was a great guy. He was always out at the track taking photos. So
was he a car guy as well?
He was a car guy. He was more towards like little MG style, you know, English style cars. But he was interested in stuff like that. But he was more of just our mascot more than anything, I think. Yeah.
Get out there and support you any way you can.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. He would tinker with things, but yeah, he's more of the deal here. He's the wrench on everything pretty much. So.
Now, one thing we didn't ask Jamie, but we'll ask you, and maybe you can fill us in on both.
Yeah.
How many are each of the races the same number of laps?
So
in the different categories, I guess, the classes that you're talking about.
In some classes, yes. Some classes will not race twins, but in my class, and just like Jamie, his class as well, sometimes they'll have what you call a twin night, and it's essentially a regular race for myself would be a 40-lap race, and I would do one single event that night. On a twin night, it'll be 2 30-lap events, or 2 25-lap events in his case, or you know, so, you know, just it gives you a little bit of a break. You have about 4 races in between, so you come in, kind of change up your air pressures a little bit. You can't change your tires, but you can like change your placement of your tires if you'd like to. But really, it's just to come in, get an idea of how to improve the car from the first run, and then go back out there and get another chance. So we did pretty well with the twins this year. There was one night that I ran away with both wins with both twins. I know I won another twin night, so it was nice to get out there and do those quick kind of full shot events to, you know, get out there and get it done. But it's just a little bit of different driving style compared to a 40-lap event. And then as said before, he's run a couple of 100-lap events, so that's a completely different style of racing. You know,
for sure.
Really monitoring.
I drove the go-kart for a couple of laps around. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. Can I pull over now?
Yeah.
So now another uneducated question for you. Is there like a school you go to learn how to do all this, or you just get in the car and you start like we talked about in the go-kart, run around the track and figure it out?
Well, there certainly is driving schools. I did not partake in anything of that sort. Really, I just was always out at the track. They started when I was 2 years old, so I was out at Langley from 2 to about 13, I think, is when I kind of started to go away from the racetrack. So I mean, that's kind of where I cut my teeth at, and really just starting with go-karts. So that's really where I learned out with the HRKC and Roads Kart Club out at Langley on Sundays. And then, you know, people that do try to move up in the ranks, maybe you're trying to go to NASCAR, you will see them maybe go down to a racing school, and you'll probably find those more around Charlotte, North Carolina, things, you know, places around like that, more like actual hubs. But I'm sure if you wanted to contact somebody, they would come up here to Langley Speedway and make sure that they would take care of you, give you some knowledge.
One thing, I mean, because this is really out of the wheelhouse for us, it's out of the wheelhouse for a lot of our viewers, but take me to Wacky Wednesday. Tell me about Wacky Wednesday and Langley Speedway.
Wacky Wednesday is a deal where Langley's got it really basically oval track drag racing. You come out on Wednesday nights, you bring a street car, and you run one lap around the track drag racing. Each person's got a lane that they get put in, and that's what they do on Wednesday nights.
Right.
They have a big following. The crowd is usually a different set of people than a Saturday night crowd. They have different interests, but it's still a huge following and lots of people. And actually,
how much does it cost to bring my street car onto that track on Wacky Wednesday?
It used to be $15. I don't know what it is now. It's still either $15 or $20 just to run. And all
so
you need is a helmet.
Get on the racetrack.
You just need a helmet and a car that has a current inspection sticker. That's it.
All right, and then the wall in turn 4, is it kind or is it not kind to those wacky racers?
It is not kind to any of those cars.
That's usually what I see on the highlights of Facebook is the Wacky Wednesday mishaps and all
Yeah,
that.
I actually ran a full season of Wacky Wednesday in 2011 with Jason, who's around. We'll talk to him soon. In one of the cars here, he had a little white Honda that we ran, and we ran the full season there in that year. And we actually won a couple of awards with that car. It wasn't anything special. It was just a regular Honda Civic. With, no turbo, nothing. And it was a fun year. And actually, we got Jason into running the real cars on Saturday nights. So,
Yeah, I know a guy, Sparky West, who was the champ this year for Wacky. So he runs the Legends, he runs his Miata, and then he also has his street car, which is a Subaru. So we had him out to the Coastal Virginia show last year. So yeah, and he's been supportive of the stuff we do with 757 Auto as well. So, but yeah, I mean it's a whole nother side of this stuff because. I enjoy going to the car shows, hard parking, and then judging them. This other stuff is definitely, you got to have some talent for this. And then just the backstory is that I have raced Langley twice in enduro races. I made it like 6 or 7 laps before I got T-boned both times.
I don't want to interrupt, but to piggyback on your Wacky Wednesday deal, have you seen the new drifting stuff that they have got coming out there?
I see his HKS is out there or something like that. They got a drift club now.
They had like the U.S. Drift come out, and they put on that event, and they had Sumo Speed come out, put on a pretty awesome car show. There was a ton of cars out there.
Yeah, so I mean,
really
it's good to
great
see Langley branching out because drifting is definitely something that we don't want you to tear up our track, but it's a pretty tough track. So let's get together and make some money and have some fun, right?
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I think we have a couple more vehicles, and maybe we can go inside and talk to Doug. I know we have the, what is that, go-kart? I don't want to insult it. Champ cart. And then I think we need
I thought that was a teacup. No?
Teacup, right.
Mini cup? We get them all mixed up now.
And then I think we need to hit Dad on the cost of all this sort of stuff. Because I'm looking around all these cars, and I'm going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So,
yes,
and again, this comes back to the sponsorship for anything. But I think we need to talk to Doug a little bit. We're checking them off little by little and becoming more and more educated. We're out here with Donald. First of all, thanks very much for your service to the Navy.
I enjoy it. I love doing what I do.
Good. How many years?
17 and a half.
Nice.
Yep. But there's light at the end of the tunnel where I can retire.
Cool.
At 38.
All right, so we've got a truck here. So explain to us a little bit about, like we've been doing with everybody else. Talk to us about the class and this being a truck.
So the class is it's called Super Truck. It's sponsored by the Harris Truck Shop, which sponsors our class. It's a Dodge Dakota body with a Ford 2.5.
Okay.
4-liter, naturally aspirated, carbureted engine. Unlike the modified that you guys learned about earlier, we have restrictions on what we can and can't do.
Okay.
A lot of like our suspension and engine parts have to be stock to what the engine was.
Gotcha.
Now we are able to go in and change gearing and stuff like that, which is kept close to the chest with the team.
With the team, sure.
Yeah. This was my first full season in 2020. Bought the truck last year. Spent most of the time that season getting it ready up to our standards of what a race truck or car would look like. I got the last 2 races of the season just to shake it down, make sure the truck was still there. And then this was my first full season this year. Learned a lot.
So how did you get into this?
Believe it or not, through my wife. Believe it or not, my wife was working with Cindy, which is Jamie and Nick's mother. I was currently deployed in Iraq, and she was going through schooling to become a nurse. Cindy, hey, come out and watch my kids race. And when I came back, they're like, hey, let's go watch. And then I watched 2-3 races from the grandstands, and then I was bit. Doug was like, hey, come on out. We can always use a gopher. Like, I was like, I did 13 years in the Navy. I've always been a gopher, so nothing new to me.
Nothing new, right.
Yeah, so I spent 1 race down there with the pits, and then I was bit. Worked with a team from probably 2008, 2009, and then last year is when I made the plunge to jump in and do it myself.
And how do you, I mean, I see cars, you're the only truck. How'd you decide on doing a truck class by going and doing?
Well, originally from Ohio, so I always like trucks. I mean, I drive a truck myself as a daily driver, so it's like, why not?
Okay, all right,
So,
fair enough.
And it was it's an easier class to get into if you're just starting.
Starting out.
Yeah, it's not. You're not going to throw so much money into it and then lose a lot. You get to learn the experience. And
I understand that we've got JRN Racing here. How do you fit in under? Because you're not son, you're not blood. We already just found out about all this. So how do you work with Doug and his team and all that sort of stuff as far as
well,
the team itself?
we tie it back to my wife, working with their mother, and they would say, "Hey, can you come over and give us a hand? We need help." You know, many hands make light work.
Right.
And then I just started spending more time, and they just kind of opened up their arms and kind of just made me family.
Yep, that's right.
So, and you said you bought the truck. So you bought the truck, and then so talk to us about like the sponsorship and all that stuff. Doug. Do you help with him with sponsors?
So we help with him to make sure the truck has what it needs. And part of this is if you want to race, you gotta go find sponsors too. With the COVID this year, it's been pretty tough for him, but we've helped him out where we can, got him tires where we needed to, and got the truck working and got it put together for him to help him be able to get out on the track. The truck division as a whole is a strong division, and so and Donald, he hasn't mentioned this yet, but he did a great job this year, finished third in points overall in his rookie season, and also got rookie of the year in the truck division. So he's like I said, he's a member of family now, and whatever we need, we wrench on it. If he needs something, we come over. If we need something, he'll come over and help us. And so
it's one big family.
So I'm assuming, I don't know, Jamie or Nick mentioned something earlier that there's like 4 or 5 classes that might be in between when he races and when his brother. So is that one, like the truck class would then come in between? So you guys can all help and chip in on each other during the night.
Yes, and it's one hectic night when all 4 of us race.
Sure. Yeah.
There's like modified takes a lot of our time because there's a lot of adjustments that we do in between races, depending on how the car acts with him. So most of our cars are easier to set up because it's not as many adjustments there. So but yes, it's definitely hectic getting all tires, getting everyone ready, strapped in.
Makes for a long night, I guess.
it does, and actually the hectic part is after the race before the next one, because if we finish the top 5, that vehicle that's in the top 5 has got to go to tech. So we're not only getting next car ready to go on the track, one of us has got to be over babysitting the car in tech to make sure that whatever they're going to do, we don't have an issue there. So it makes for a long night. So.
All right, so I think we're done with Donald here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do Jason real quick.
And now we'll move over to Jason on the other side over here and talk to him about his car. All right, so we've moved on to yet our next victim, Jason. Thanks for talking with us tonight.
Absolutely.
So you're not family either.
No, sir.
So
I mean, we're
the
close
same
family.
The same story that we had with Donald, does that apply here?
Very, very similar.
Go ahead.
I started helping them out with when they started running super streets back in 2006, 2007. There every weekend. Helping rebuild the cars during the week because back then the division was really rough. I mean, it's still rough, but so there's a lot of work to be had. And then it's always been a dream to run a race car. So helping them out opened some doors. So that allowed me to get in a car around 2012, 2013.
Very good.
Racing ever since.
So I see a pattern here.
Yes.
I see you bring people in to help, and then all of a sudden they've got a car, and now you're moving forward and going from there. So
Absolutely.
So explain to us, we had everybody else talk to us about their cars. Explain to us what's different about this car than some of the other in the class that you're running in with this one.
Okay. This is a Pro 6 car, so it is a purpose-built race car from the ground up. There's nothing factory on it except for a couple of the suspension components and brake components. We run a Nissan 3-liter V6 engine that's found in the trucks and Maximas and whatnot, 300 ZXs. The car with the driver weighs 2,250 pounds, so it's a fairly lightweight car. It shares a lot of the same body panels as some of the late models do. It's just a shorter version. Just a really fun, low-budget division. The initial cost of the car is the greatest expense. Yep, and you know they're made to all run equal with the same components. There's a fair amount of adjustability on the cars, but there's a lot of spec components that make these cars, you know, all the same. That's like the theme of the division.
Okay. So I see a lot of rub marks and all that sort of stuff. If you get into a little, let's call it fender bender that night, is it something that you guys just duct tape, or do you carry a bunch of parts with you that you can put slap panels on? And is there some sort of regulation that says you're too damaged to be able to continue even though you think you can?
No, there is, it depends upon the damage. For the most part, we'll duct tape it up. If it's something that's really bad and it's totally come loose, and we'll just pull it off the car.
Pull it off, okay.
And in fact, Nick ran a race last year where he didn't have a whole side of his car.
Okay.
Back when we were talking with Jamie on the modified, if you notice, his quarter panel's been cut off.
Yeah,
That happened in the last 100-lap race. He got hit from the back. We were concerned that piece was going to rub on the tire, and we just during one of the pits we cut the piece off. So it just depends on the damage and how much there is. There's not really any rule on it other than as long as it's not going to be a safety issue, it'll fall off.
That's right. So this will be year 2 then for you, or year 3?
No, this is almost year 7 or 8.
Year 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the 3rd division I've been in. So
Okay.
This is the This year is the 2nd year I've been in this particular car.
Oh, I gotcha. All right. So Jason, you just said that you've been 7 years, but if I'm mistaken, it was only because you've been in this car for 2 years.
Correct.
What are the other divisions that you were in?
I started in U car, so that's a front-wheel drive class. It's stock cars with roll cage and very minimal improvements, mainly just safety improvements to them. And then I went over and raced super streets, which are essentially their street stock. That's where I spent most of my time, was in the super street. And then I made the leap to this. Yep.
Any plans on going? I'm guessing there's other classes above, right?
There are, but this is pretty much where I think I'm going to stay.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, Jason, thanks very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so we got to move inside and warm up a little bit.
Yep.
Thanks for turning the heat on that.
Yeah.
So we got the garage door closed. So we're here with Mark, and this is completely, definitely out of my my expertise here. But we're in front of the Champ car, right?
Yep.
So again, you're not family. So let's start there. How did you get involved with Doug and the rest of the guys as far as the racing is concerned?
Just showed up, asked if he needed a hand. He said, "Hey, you want to come hang out and help?" I said, "Yeah." And then one thing led to another, and I was there every Saturday. And then he said, "Hey, you want to race?" And I was like, "Yeah." And here we are today.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So explain to us a little bit. You know, this is a very small car, obviously, compared to everything else that we talk about. So talk to me about this as far as the makeup, the class. What all needs to go into this. There's been unique things between all these other vehicles. How about this one?
Basically, we're on a level platform all the way around, other than chassis. You can run your own chassis if you want, but we're all under a sealed Briggs LO206 motor.
Okay.
We can run open gear, open tire. Wings have to be a certain degree, certain angle. Wheelbase has to be certain. So we are on pretty much a level playing field. They call this the Daytona of karting. Basically, if you do not have another kart on your back bumper or your front bumper pushing or hitting, you're not racing. You're basically got a parachute on your back, so you have to be picked up drafting to even be competitive in this sport.
So in the classes, where does this fall? Or is it even in the classes with the rest of these? There's a unique setup. I'm assuming you go on Saturday nights along with all these guys and are on the track.
It's a unique setup. Normally they ran it on Sundays, but the class got so big, the owner of the Speedway was like, "Hey, why don't we run this Saturday nights and have it in front of the big fans?" And so they incorporated it in with all of these big cars, and we started racing Saturday nights with them.
And traditionally, the Champ cars will run the first event.
I was wondering. Okay.
Yep.
So why Champ cars?
Just build my way up.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll get to something one day. We gotta start small.
So step back. When you said you volunteered for Doug and all that. How long ago was that?
It's been 2 years.
Yeah. Okay.
2 years
so this
now.
is good. And then this past year was your
Yeah,
first
we were
year.
a pick of this Champ cart at the end of 2018. So So into 2019, so this was his first season of racing. He worked on it over the winter time, got some help from some close friends of ours and understanding how to make it work. Because having this champ card, from my perspective, it's been 12, 13 years since we did any kind of go-kart racing.
Right.
And go-kart racing, although the concept and the theories are a little bit the same as the bigger cars, it's totally different the way you've got to set them up. And especially these cars with the wing, you're flat-footing all the way around. You're not lifting, and so that's it. As you mentioned before, the draft comes into very much play, and a 2-3 car draft is a lot faster than a single car draft. So it works just no different than Talladega and Daytona. And if you're out there by yourself, you are toast. Yeah.
Maintenance on these things. Same, different. I know obviously size and whatnot, but moving parts,
keeping them free, greasing them, cleaning them. These things, like I said, you're flat footing all around, so they've got to be very free. They got to roll very free. Anything that would scrub speed off in the corners is detrimental. So you've got to really pay a lot of attention to the cleanliness of the parts and the lubrication.
So as far as drafting, do you talk about this before the race starts, or is this just something you get out on the track and you find somebody who's, how does that all work as far as trying to figure out? You were saying, and Doug said, 2 or 3 of you are going to get in and go.
We all try to talk about it, but when the green flag drops, it's pretty much every man for themselves, and depending on if somebody gets free or if there's a wreck and everybody scrambles, it's get in where you line up and hold on.
What is the top speed on one of these things?
We're drafting at about 60, 65.
And you're 2 inches above the track.
That was my first thought, was you're right on the track.
Right.
With no suspension.
Yeah, and the track looks smooth, but it's really not. So you're feeling every rip and bump in heaven.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about cost and all this. You've got 4 or 5 different vehicles that you're running, all on a Saturday night. Tell us a little bit, if you will, kind of an overview on what you expect as far as tires, fuel, entry fees, and all that sort of stuff to get in and do a race.
So for any given night, if we're racing both the modified and the grand stock tonight, from my team it'll cost us about $700 to $800.
Okay.
And so where that cost goes, first off, is because these guys are all part of the team, I buy all the pit passes. So typically there's 8 pit passes for $25 a piece, so that's $200 for pit passes. We'll need 20 gallons of fuel. Okay, we use 110 octane Sunoco racing fuel that the track provides. It's $8.25 a gallon. So we're spending $165 in fuel. And then tires. So the modified, we have what's called a 2-tire rule. The 2-tire rule means we can buy 2 brand new tires that night. And so those tires are approximately $150 a piece. So it's $300 for modified tires. The grand stock has a 1-tire rule. And so that you can get 1 tire a night. And so if you want to be competitive and you want to be up front, you got to buy tires. If you don't buy tires, then you're not going to be competitive.
Okay.
So when you add all that up, it's like I said, it's about $600 just to walk in the gate that night. And so, like I said, I buy all their team members' pit passes. If they're racing that night, they're picking up their own tires that they need and whatever fuel. But as long as we don't crash something, then that's about the weekly cost. Every few weeks you change spark plugs, so that's another $50. Change oil in the cars, that's another $50. So that's every few weeks.
How often is an engine rebuild on something like this?
So
once a season?
Once a season, you at least need to go through, make sure there's nothing obvious wrong, and change valve springs. Okay. You can go, like on the grand stock engine, we can go about 3 seasons before we want to go tear it down. And not because it needs it per se, but because we want to make sure it doesn't need it.
Sure.
And as long as you don't find any major damage to it, then it's about $1,000 to $1,500 for the parts to put it back together.
Now we talk body work. You do do some of it's farmed out as far as frame and all that. How about engine work and all that? You guys do that here, or do you send that out?
No,
to the
so
shops?
we've gotten relationships now with several engine builders. I can build the engines, and I do the maintenance type work on them. But if we need to have it really gone through, then we'll send it to either our friend Tony Spivey that works at Phelps Machine in Suffolk. He does our Super Street engines and our Grand Stock engine, or for our modified, which is the higher horsepower motor. We use George Coleman at Cam's Racing Engines up in Gloucester. And so, that to me needs to have a professional at it, mainly because they've got the machine tools and the equipment and the dynos and things like that to make sure what we got is going to be, one, reliable, and two, put out the power. Whereas trying to do that in your garage, you can't really.
So, for those of you who are at home watching all this, hopefully in the last 45 minutes or 50 minutes, I don't even know how long we've been talking, but this has been great. It's been a great education. Hopefully you all are educated, and I think we're going to step back into this. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to group everybody back together, and we're going to do a closeout.
All right, so we've learned a lot of stuff about Langley. We learned a lot of stuff about different cars. We learned about the cart, the teacups, the modified, the stock modified, and we learned a lot of stuff today. So we're going to review the tapes, and then if you want to learn something, go back to the tapes. Because Mr. Doug got a lot of wisdom. He's really shared a lot of his time and effort with the boys here. I want to say thank you to him for having us out. I also want to say thank you to all of the drivers for coming out here and hanging out. Again, we do this because what? We love it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So is it the need for speed, or is it just the fact that I can build this thing go faster than you?
Both.
Yeah. Either way, it's a fun thing. We want to bring in Jeanette, and she has something for you guys.
Absolutely, Doug. We have something for you.
Oh.
And we are so grateful
Thank
for
you.
you allowing us to come out. I
Appreciate it.
enjoyed talking to each and every one of you. They all have great stories, so this may go on and on. So
Yeah, there's a couple different
tuned.
layers to this that we may not have gotten to today.
Yep, but we will.
Yeah,
And,
we also want to say thank you to our sponsors.
yes,
So,
VPI Services, Rooster Concepts, and we want to tell Doug that we're proud to be a sponsor of his race team. We'll see him in 2021. And we'll see you in 2021.
That's right. Yep.
Right?
Very
On the
much.
road.
Y'all have a
all right,
Merry
guys.
Christmas.
Thanks. You all be good. We'll see you soon. We're on the road.
On the
Bye.
road. See ya.